Alright, before you scroll away, before you dismiss this as just another crypto headline, take a breath and really listen, because what I'm about to talk about is not about hype. It's not about overnight riches, and it's definitely not about telling you what to buy or sell. This is about a shift in tone, a shift in language, and a shift in confidence that longtime market watchers don't ignore. When someone like Brad Garlinghouse speaks, people don't just hear words, they listen for signals. And lately, those signals have been different. For years, XRP conversations were defensive, careful, measured, almost restrained. But recently, something changed. Not loud announcements, not flashy promises, just subtle confidence. And in markets, subtle confidence often says more than bold predictions ever could. Now, before we go deeper, if you value calm, grounded conversations about crypto without fear bait or fake guarantees, hit the like button. It helps this content reach people who actually want understanding, not noise. And subscribe if you want long-form analysis that respects your intelligence instead of rushing you into decisions. Let's talk about why people are suddenly asking this question. Did Brad Garlinghouse just confirm something bigger about XRP's future? The word confirm is dangerous in crypto. Nobody can confirm the future, and anyone who claims certainty is either guessing or selling emotion. What matters isn't confirmation, it's context. It's how language changes when pressure eases. It's how posture shifts when uncertainty turns into preparation. Brad Garlinghouse has always been careful with his words. That's not accidental. As the CEO of a company operating at the intersection of crypto and global finance, every sentence carries weight. For a long time, that weight was defensive, explaining, responding, clarifying, but recently the tone feels less reactive and more forward-looking. That's not hype, that's observation. XRP has spent years under a microscope, legal scrutiny, regulatory debates, public skepticism. Most projects don't survive that kind of pressure. Many disappear. Others pivot into something unrecognizable. XRP didn't do either. It stayed aligned with its original mission, efficient global value transfer. When someone leads a company through that kind of storm and comes out still standing, their confidence isn't based on hope, it's based on survival. Markets don't reward noise long term, they reward resilience. One of the most misunderstood aspects of XRP is that it was never designed to impress retail traders. It wasn't built to trend on social media. It was built to solve a problem that most people never see directly, the inefficiency of moving money across borders. That's not exciting until you realize how big that problem actually is. Global payments move trillions of dollars, not billions, trillions. And much of that system still relies on slow, fragmented infrastructure. When Brad Garlinghouse talks about the future, he's not talking about price charts. He's talking about plumbing, financial plumbing, and plumbing only gets attention when it works or when it fails. For years, XRP existed in a strange place. Too corporate for crypto purists. Too crypto for traditional finance. That's an uncomfortable middle ground. But sometimes, being early looks exactly like being wrong. The crypto market has matured, slowly, painfully, and with that maturity comes a shift in what matters. Speculation doesn't disappear, but it stops being the only driver. Utility starts to matter more. Compliance starts to matter more. Reliability starts to matter more. That's the environment XRP was built for. When Brad Garlinghouse speaks about timelines, he doesn't do it like a hype influencer. He speaks like someone watching infrastructure align with readiness. He doesn't promise outcomes, he points to preparation. And preparation is what most people miss because it's quiet. Think about how major technologies actually take over. The internet wasn't exciting when it was cables and protocols. Smartphones weren't revolutionary when they were clunky and limited. Digital payments weren't interesting when they were slow and unreliable. The excitement came later, after the groundwork was laid. XRP feels like it's in that groundwork phase to many people, but to others, it feels like the groundwork is finally being recognized. Now, let's be clear for YouTube policy and for your own protection. This is not financial advice. This is not a prediction. This is analysis of behavior, language, and market structure. Nothing more. Markets don't move because of belief. They move because of alignment. Alignment between technology, regulation, liquidity, and timing. For years, XRP had technology. Liquidity existed. What was missing was clarity, and clarity doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with paperwork, courtrooms, frameworks, and slow acceptance. When that clarity starts to take shape, the tone changes. People often ask why XRP didn't moon earlier. That question assumes price is the goal. For infrastructure-focused assets, price is a side effect, not a mission. Brad Garlinghouse has never spoken like someone chasing a pump. He speaks like someone positioning for integration. That's not exciting for day traders, but it's extremely interesting for institutions. Institutions don't need price spikes. They need reliability. They need predictability. They need legal frameworks they can defend in boardrooms. That's why the phrase 2026 is catching attention. Not because it's a magic year, but because it's far enough away for systems to align and close enough to feel real. When leaders start referencing future windows instead of defending the present, it signals confidence in trajectory, not outcome, and that distinction matters. Crypto history is full of loud promises that collapsed under pressure. XRP's history is the opposite. Quiet persistence under pressure. That doesn't guarantee success. Nothing does. But it changes the risk profile. One of the biggest mistakes retail investors make is assuming markets reward conviction. They don't. They reward correct positioning at the right time. Conviction without understanding is just emotion. Understanding without patience is just frustration. XRP's story requires patience. Not blind loyalty, not denial, just patience grounded in reality. Reality says global payments are still inefficient. Reality says regulation is tightening, not disappearing. Reality says institutions will not adopt systems that put them at legal risk. XRP exists in that reality. When Brad Garlinghouse talks about the future, he's not talking to Twitter. He's talking to policymakers, banks, and partners. His audience is not retail traders refreshing charts. That's why his words feel understated to some and significant to others. And this is where the suspense comes in. Not suspense about price, suspense about timing. Markets often move before the story becomes obvious. By the time everyone agrees something is real, positioning has already shifted. That doesn't mean tomorrow matters more than yesterday. It means windows open quietly and close quickly. If you've watched XRP for years, you know how uncomfortable this waiting can feel. You've seen hype cycles come and go. You've seen narratives rise and collapse. And yet, XRP remains. Survival isn't sexy, but it's rare. Before we continue into the deeper implications of what 2026 could represent and why language matters more than headlines, make sure you're subscribed. The next part builds directly on this foundation, and missing it will break the flow. This story isn't about a single statement. It's about a long arc bending slowly toward relevance. That long arc only becomes visible when you stop zooming in on single moments and start watching behavior over time. And behavior is exactly where the real story continues. Because when pressure fades, when survival is no longer the primary objective, what replaces it is intent, and intent is where future direction begins to reveal itself. For a long time, XRP's leadership was forced to speak from a defensive position, explaining what XRP was not, explaining what it wasn't trying to do, explaining why it existed at all. That kind of posture drains energy. It keeps focus locked on the past. But recently, the posture feels different. Less explanation, less justification, more forward-looking language, more discussion about what comes next instead of what went wrong before. That doesn't happen by accident. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It means reduced uncertainty, and reduced uncertainty is the most valuable currency in institutional finance. When uncertainty drops, participation increases, not emotionally, but methodically. This is where people misunderstand the phrase breakout. They think it means a sudden vertical line on a chart, but for infrastructure-focused assets, a breakout often starts as increased relevance, more conversations, more quiet adoption, more alignment behind closed doors. Price is usually the last thing to react. XRP's position has always been strange for retail participants because it doesn't fit the usual crypto playbook. There's no constant rebranding, no endless roadmap resets, no dramatic pivots to chase trends.